Hello, I'm EG. I'm a writer, artist, crocheter, and collector with a wide spectrum of projects, interests, and ideas, and I make ridiculous, variegated videos to hopefully inspire you to find ways to have fun, get deals, and be creative in your life. This is the Just EG channel. Let's turn it on. This is ridiculous. I know this is ridiculous. I love this so much. Welcome to my first lineup. Tonight's lineup is going to be a special Wizard of Oz themed lineup, where all of the episodes of all of the shows are Wizard of Oz themed. First up in Crocheting with EG, I'm going to show you all of the Wizard of Oz themed crochet that I've made. Some of it is stuff that I've already shown in previous videos, but there is something new. I'll show that in greater detail. And then after Crocheting with EG and Collecting with EG, I'm going to be showing all of my Wizard of Oz themed collectibles. I have a bunch of like random collectibles, but like the two main things that are in my collection are my Ruby Slippers collection and my collection of Wizard of Oz plates. So I'll show all of my collectibles. And then after that, in physical media with EG, I'm going to be showing all of my Wizard of Oz themed physical media. Books, DVDs, Blu-rays, and VHS tapes. And some of them are the Wizard of Oz, some are Return to Oz, some are the other Oz movies that have come out since then. But I'll show you all of that. And then in Crafting with EG, I'll show you some of the Wizard of Oz themed crafts that I've made over the years. I'm also going to show you some of my mom's cross-stitching that she did because it's Wizard of Oz themed. Really gorgeous cross-stitching things. And then finally, in Storytelling with EG, I'm going to tell you a couple like random stories from my life that are Wizard of Oz themed because it's been a big part of my life since I was a little kid. And it's made more of an impact on my life than I ever realized, but that'll be in Storytelling with EG. And feel free to use the timestamps on the screen to skip around to whatever TV shows or episodes that you want to watch. But I hope you enjoy the lineup, and coming up here first, right after my animated logo, is Crocheting with EG. Hello, I'm EG, and in this episode of Crocheting with EG, I'm going to be showing my Wizard of Oz themed crochet. This I've shown in a previous video, and these I showed in a previous video, but they weren't finished yet, but I have since finished it. And then this thing, oh my god, this is probably the most ridiculous thing of all of this stuff that I've made. But I haven't shown this in a video yet, but it's ridiculous. But anyway, the first thing, I'll start off with like one of my favorite things that I've made with crochet is these Ruby Slippers that I made for my niece. It's a really simple tutorial. I think it's Anastasia's tutorial for the slippers, where you just make a panel out of crochet and go into the back loop only, and then the way you cinch it up, it makes these slippers. And so I wanted to make my niece, because I love the Wizard of Oz, of course, and when I would watch my niece all the time, I'd put on movies and stuff for her to watch, and I put on the Wizard of Oz, and she started to love the Wizard of Oz too. And so when I got into crochet, I was thinking maybe I could make her like some Ruby Slippers. And so I used the Red Heart Super Saver, the red metallic yarn, because it has that sparkle thread in it, you know, the red metallic thread in it. So that gave it the sparkle, and then the bow. I really loved. I haven't done much with beads since this, but I learned how to incorporate beads into crochet work. It was a little bit different than, you know, just regular crochet or whatever, because you have to know how many beads that you need. You just string them onto the yarn beforehand, and then you just pull the beads into your work as you need them. And but it made these gorgeous little bows. And so the tutorial for the bow was somebody else, but I made little bows, and see how sparkly the beads are. They're not pony beads, but they're the kind of faceted jewel-like beads. I do love those kind of beads the most. But it added the pretty bows, and so it has like the metallic strand in the yarn itself, and then the bows have these beads on them. And so my niece just loved her Ruby Slippers. And what was funny is I started making these, and then I only had one done, but she wanted to put it on even though I wasn't finished with the second one yet. And so I just have this memory of her just like skipping around the house in just like one of her Ruby Slippers because the other one wasn't done yet. And but anyway, but she loved the Wizard of Oz so much that I bought her this Yellow Brick Road Runner. Of course, now I'm just hearing Road Runner. It's just like this thing that you can put on the floor, and it has sticky areas on the bottom of it so that it doesn't slide. And it's like a runner, and so it looks like the Yellow Brick Road. And so I made these for her, and I have these cute videos, and I'll put little insert shots of those where she was skipping down her little Yellow Brick Road in her Ruby Slippers, and but she loved these so much, and I love that she loves the Wizard of Oz too. because my love of the Wizard of Oz is such a big part of my life, and I love that she loves the Wizard of Oz too, and she also loves Return to Oz too, which is great, because I showed her that movie, and I love that she loves that one too, because a lot of people that watch the Wizard of Oz and grew up with the Wizard of Oz didn't really know about Return to Oz. I still can't believe that there are people out there that have never heard of Return to Oz. Of course, it's not like directly connected to the original movie, and part of it is more accurate to the book, but it's not like a direct sequel or anything. And going into it, you shouldn't feel like it's a direct sequel, because it is a lot darker and stuff, but it's more reflective of the books and stuff. But it's a really good movie too, and she loves Return to Oz too. But anyway, so I made my niece these ruby slippers, and I've already shown these in a previous video. And then for me, I wanted to make some bookmarks, because when I first started to crochet, the thing that I was crocheting was bookmarks, and it was like an easy way to crochet something really simple and have something like an accomplishment at the end of it, where I would sit down and I would think of crocheting a bookmark or crocheting something, and then a couple rows later it was already done. And so I loved making bookmarks, and it also kind of doubled as like swatches of new yarns. Every time I get a new yarn, I think, oh, I'll make a bookmark, and then I get to see like what it looks like crocheted up. But I wanted to make one that was Wizard of Oz themed, and I'd heard about tapestry crochet, or like where you take the grids and then you change colors, and like it's sort of like a pixel art, and as you crochet you change colors a bunch of times, and like my EG logo here is a tapestry thing. Speaking of, I put this here on the back of my chair because of the whole Wizard of Oz theme, so that's when I have my chair back here. But my EG logo is a tapestry crochet. I used my graphic design program, and I took my logo and I turned it into a grid where you follow the grid kind of like cross stitching or whatever, and then you just have to change colors a lot, and you have to have bobbins, and it's a lot more complicated, and because it's so complicated, that's why I haven't made a whole lot of things using that tapestry crochet. But I wanted to make my logo, and so I did that. But then I also wanted to make a bookmark, and then try to do that tapestry crochet and design something myself that kind of alluded to the Wizard of Oz. Of course, this isn't exact like the Wizard of Oz. It's supposed to allude to the Wizard of Oz, but it turned out so nice. And so I'll put the shot of the grid that I designed on the screen, because it's not like I can sell it as a pattern or anything. It's just like a bookmark design. And I'll link to the grid on my website in case it doesn't show very well on the screen. But I just designed that in my graphics program, and so what it's supposed to allude to is the yellow part is supposed to be the yellow brick road, and it's supposed to be Dorothy's ruby slippers and her blue socks walking down the yellow brick road. And then the green point at the top is supposed to allude to the Emerald City. So it's like, she's walking in her ruby slippers on the yellow brick road on her way to the Emerald City. And so I made that grid. And so I did make one version of it. The first version of it was I'm going to try to hide the tassel, because the thing I've shown these bookmarks in a previous video when I showed like everything I made in my first year of crochet. And so I've already shown the actual bookmarks, but for this video I wanted to finish the tassels finally. I think I made these like over a year ago, but I wanted to finish the tassels for these. But this is the bookmark, and so the first version of the bookmark I used half double crochet, and so it just turned out too loose and it's like way too long. It's just because I used half double crochet instead of single crochet, and then I used one strand of yarn, and for the one that I prefer, the really good one, I doubled up the yarn. See, it's nice, but see how it's just kind of looser. And so these are the ruby slippers with her blue socks or whatever on the yellow brick road on her way to the Emerald City. And so there's this one, and I'll show the tassel here in a minute. I made the tassel for both of these the same. And so what I have it in is this Wizard of Oz book that I have. And so the first one is on this page. I put it on this page because I thought that this is them when they first see the Emerald City, and so I thought that would be a good place to put a bookmark. And then the other bookmark, like the one I really love, that turned out perfect, is on this page. The shot of them looking at the Emerald City and on their way to the Emerald City. And so this is the bookmark that turned out really nice. And so I used a single crochet, but I doubled up the yarn. So because I use single crochet, it looks a lot better, and also doubling it up. Because the yarn I used for this was it was back when I was getting those little tiny mini makers, and I got like one of each of the colors at Hobby Lobby, and it is like really cheap, really thin yarn. So I decided, since I was using that yarn, I was going to double it up, and it basically just made it like a medium 4-weight yarn. I know that it's supposed to be medium 4-weight yarn, but it is like really thin and really cheap feeling, because it is cheap yarn. But you know what I'm saying? You get what you pay for, and I expected that. But I doubled it up, and so I used this golden color for the Yellow Brick Road, and then her gorgeous shoes. And on the red yarn that I used for this is the same Red Heart metallic. I do love the metallic yarns where the strand matches the yarn itself. And so the Red Heart Super Saver red metallic yarn has a red strand in it. And so there's like the red yarn, and then the metallic strand is red too. So I love that look, and it really sells the effect that these are supposed to be the ruby slippers when the metallic strand is red too. And so then there's supposed to be the Emerald City or whatever. And so the tassel, this is what the tassel look like. I do love this. Most of my beads I'd gotten at Walmart. I've gotten some beads from Michael's, and I've gotten some beads from Hobby Lobby and other places, and like if I ever find any in thrift stores, I found some in thrift stores. But for the most part, I'd gotten this big, it was like this big round thing at Walmart, and it had all these separate compartments and all these faceted jewel-like beads or whatever. Those are my favorite ones. And so I'd gotten one of those, and they were kind of grouped out into like generically into the different colors. And so they have these gorgeous green beads. The red beads on the tassel are ones I think I'd gotten at Hobby Lobby though, but the green ones were from Walmart. And so this is what the tassel looks like. And so it has all these big green jewel-like things, you know, because of the emeralds and stuff. I feel like I want to touch these and say Oz, and because that's from Return to Oz. You should know that. But I picked these gorgeous green ones to kind of allude to the whole Emerald City thing. And then this is the red one that I got. And I feel like I did get these from Hobby Lobby. And so they're these rounded beads with all these little red jewels all over them and stuff. And then the thread I used was just like a golden yellow to match this. I just thought the more golden yellow matched this gold. I forget what colorway this was that I used for the Yellow Brick Road, but it's more of like a golden yellow. I thought this thread matched that really well. And so the tassel for this one is the same thing. And luckily I had like doubles of all these beads and everything. So there are these. And of course I've shown these in videos, but I just had to finish the tassels, and I wanted to show those. And it's about time I finished the tassels. But then the last thing, it's utterly ridiculous. But I wanted to make another hat cover because I've been like obsessed with making these hat covers and stuff. And I thought I wanted to make like a Wizard of Oz themed hat cover. I haven't weaved in the ends yet because I had to change colors a bunch of times. But I wanted to make a hat cover like a for my baseball hat. If you saw my previous videos before I rebranded as the Just EG channel. But I wear my baseball hat, and I started to make these hat covers, and so I just make like it's basically like a beanie that I just wear on top of my hat because I love the look of the brim of my hat. And so I can wear these as beanies and stuff, but I just think it looks better like on a hat, like as an accessory to a hat. And so I thought maybe I can make like a Wizard of Oz kind of themed beanie, because I knew exactly how many rows to do for a beanie where it would fit perfectly on my hat. I've had to adjust depending on the weight of the yarn, but because I knew exactly how many rows to do, I thought I can kind of plan it out and with each row kind of allude to certain things in the Wizard of Oz. And so I'm telling you, this is the most ridiculous thing, even more ridiculous than the ruby slippers and all that. And so this is the hat cover, and I mean, it's like if this is supposed to allude to like the ruby slippers walking down the Yellow Brick Road towards the Emerald City, if this is supposed to allude to that, this is like that concept cranked up like 10 times. I mean, this is utterly ridiculous, but I do love this so much. And so what it is, like on the top, this pink part, I did crochet a little pink circle to put on top of this because when I just used the pink and then I changed to the green, it just didn't look like a circle. I wanted to actually look like a circle. And so that's an attachment there at the top. And so that's supposed to be allude to Glinda's bubble. And then all this green here is supposed to be the Emerald City. And then this brown here, I attached a chain of this brown color to kind of allude to Dorothy's hair, the braids in her hair. And so I just chained it up, and then I attached the chain to that. So that's another element that's just attached to it. And then all this like blue and white is supposed to, I should have just shown you this and had you like, you know, pause the video and try to figure out like, you know, what alludes to what, but it's obvious at this point. But so blue and white are supposed to be her dress, Dorothy's blue gingham dress, kind of like this fabric. And then of course the red down here is supposed to allude to the ruby slippers, and then the golden yellow color is supposed to be the yellow brick road. And so in the red, I doubled up here. All of this is just like one strand of yarn, but then the red, I used the Red Heart Super Saver metallic yarn, and then I also added in it's from Big Twist. It's like the one right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's like the burgundy-ish red color. It's in their metallic yarns that they don't have in my store anymore. The Big Twist, I think I'd gotten that skein at Joann, actually, before they closed. No, after they closed. God, I do that so many times, it's so stupid. But I'd gotten some of that. It's kind of like a burgundy-ish metallic yarn from Joann. It's the Big Twist, and so I mixed that in to add kind of like a darker element to it too. So there's like the really gorgeous bright red, and then there's like a deeper, darker red in it too. So that's the ruby slipper stripe. And I really don't see myself like wearing this out anywhere, because I look even more ridiculous than I already do, like walking around with my cuffs on, or like my jingling keychains, you know, the crochet hooks off of my, I was about to say crossbody bag, but it's a freaking purse at this point. And then like all my hat covers and cane covers and all that kind of stuff. But this wouldn't be the most ridiculous thing that I wore out, but this is utterly ridiculous, and it's just like something that I feel like I made for myself. So this is what the hat cover looks like. I mean, God, it's so utterly ridiculous, but God, I love this kind of stuff. But see, it just screams the Wizard of Oz. I mean, if you know anything about the Wizard of Oz, just looking at these colors, like, you would know that this is the Wizard of Oz, hopefully. But it turned out so nice, as ridiculous as it is. But I'm so glad that I made this. So just something fun for me. That's how I feel about my crochet. Because like, if you watched some of my older videos, you know that I had this intention to like start a crochet business, and I'll probably still sell some of my crochet in the future on my website network or whatever. But I haven't done that yet, and part of me feels like the reason why I haven't done that yet is because I'm just having so much fun like crocheting stuff for myself and the people in my life or whatever, and so. I mean, I'll probably sell some of my crochet in the future and everything, but like I'm just having so much fun like crocheting all kinds of ridiculous stuff for myself and all the people around me that I'm not really, like, every time I make something, no matter what it is, I feel like I don't want to sell this. Like, I don't know. I know that I have a lot of yarn and a lot of intentions to, like, you know, crochet things to give to people and sell to people and all that kind of stuff, and I will probably do that in the future, but like, I don't know, it's just not going to happen anytime soon, because I'm just having so much fun, like, making ridiculous stuff like this, because I love to crochet, and it's so much fun, and I'd hate to think that I was getting to the point where I was, like, really invested in, like, a full-time crochet business, and, like, every month it would be like, okay, I have to sit down and crochet, like, you know, 30 things, because I have, like, a craft fair coming up. At this point with my crochet, I don't have this feeling like, oh, I have to, you know, crochet this stuff to, you know, build up a bunch of stuff for a craft fair. It's like I have all this free time where I can just, like, you know, think of all kinds of ridiculous things and like to make for myself or the people around me, and I don't have to feel like I have to make a certain thing. Because, like, this hat, there's no way that I could make this and somebody would buy this. Like, this is utterly ridiculous. But, like, I wanted to make this. And so this is what I have the most fun doing, is I'm using my yarn and making ridiculous things like this. That's what's most fun for me at this point, to just, like, have this freedom of, like, being able to just make all kinds of ridiculously creative things. And not have to feel like, oh, that idea, that I won't even do that because nobody's going to buy that. It's like, I don't care. I'm making this stuff for myself at this point. And so that's what makes it a lot more fun. That you know, I can, you know, go wild with my creativity and make something ridiculous like this, and I don't have to worry about, oh, nobody's going to buy this. Like, of course they're not. Nobody's going to get this. This is mine. As ridiculous as it is. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Crocheting with EG, and stay tuned next where I'm collecting with EG, where I'm going to show you all my Wizard of Oz collectibles. Hello, I'm EG, and in this episode of Collecting with EG, I'm going to be showing my Wizard of Oz collection. And I have a bunch of like random things in my collection too. But the main things in my collection are my ruby slippers collection and my these collectible plates that I have. I never thought I'd have so many collectible plates in like my Wizard of Oz stuff or any of my collections. But I'm starting to get like collectible plates, and so I do have a bunch of really gorgeous collectible plates. But like the main thing really is like my ruby slipper collection. Like as much as I love the Wizard of Oz, like I think I was more obsessed with the ruby slippers than anything. That's why I have so many ruby slippers. Some of these are my niece's too. What I'm going to do is this backdrop here with like the gingham fabric. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and then take this runner that I had gotten. It looks like the Yellow Brick Road. This is the one that I got my niece, and she skipped down all the time with her ruby slippers. And so I'm going to take this and that fabric sometime to make like a nice display of my Wizard of Oz stuff, and then also my ruby slipper collection. But I'll start with the ruby slippers first because there's like my favorite things. I don't have any like exact replicas of the ruby slippers. There are a couple. There are some for my niece and then ones for my mom that are actual like Wizard of Oz branded, but they don't really look like the actual ruby slippers in the movie. So most of these are just like red glittery shoes and stuff, but to me they're always going to be ruby slippers. But the ones that I got in my niece first were these little tiny shoes right here. It's crazy now to think that my niece was this small that she would fit into these tiny little shoes, but these were like her first ruby slippers. We had found these, and of course they don't look exactly like the ones on Wizard of Oz, but because they have like these white jewels on the toe of them and all that stuff, but they were red and glittery, and to her they were ruby slippers. And so we had gotten her these when she first started to love the Wizard of Oz, and so she wore these around until she grew out of them. And then I wanted to get her some like exactly like these. I had to buy these on eBay. I can't remember how much I had bought these for on eBay, but it was more than what we bought these for originally. And so I had to buy her some that were exactly the same, that were just a little bit bigger, not smaller. These are size 8s, and then I had to go up to a 10, so I got her these bigger ones, and so they're exactly the same. And so I have these two pairs. These were hers. And then as she got older, we got her ones that were a little bit bigger. And so like these, I think these are officially licensed Wizard of Oz ruby slippers. These are like for costumes, but see, they don't really look exactly like the ruby slippers, but they're they do have sequins on them. They're just not as covered in sequins as the ones on the Wizard of Oz, but these are gorgeous too. And so these are some of my niece's slippers. And then these right here, and so these are more ruby slippers. They don't have a bow on the end of them, but they're really pretty. So we got her those. And then these, I think these are my favorite ones. These were her favorites too. She grew out of them so quick though. She barely got to use these, but these were ones that, just like these costume ones that I gotten on Amazon. And these are the closest ones to the ruby slippers that I think I have in her shoes, because they do look red and glittery, and like it's really coated in the red glitter, and then the bows on it are really pretty too. So those were her ruby slippers. And then we had this party, and I'll talk about it in Crafting with EG, but we had this Wizard of Oz party for my niece, and so I thought it'd be funny if we all sat around and we had ruby slippers on, and because my niece had some, and then all I needed to do was get my mom some. I did have some. I had my like big drag queen heels. I'll save those for last. They're ridiculous. I call them drag queen heels. They're either like for a drag queen or like for somebody that is in a disco in the 70s. I mean, they're just utterly ridiculous. Like these giant if I tried to wear those things, they do actually fit my feet. But if I tried to wear those things and walk around in them, I'd probably break my neck. But I do have like some regular flat shoes, and so I do have those. And so those are the ones I wore during the party. And then I need to get my mom some. And I did try to make my mom some one time, but I had gotten her some shoes. We've just found like some cheap ones at Goodwill or whatever, and I tried to coat them in glitter, but I must not have used the right kind of glue or something, because the second it started to bend, and like as you move in the shoes, the glitter started to pick off or whatever, and it just wasn't successful. So I just decided to get her some like these costume shoes, and like these are definitely branded with the Wizard of Oz, because there's a Wizard of Oz logo on the inside. But these are the ones that for my mom, and so they're just like these flat shoes, which are just as pretty. They're just flat shoes, and then they have like the bow on the toe of them. So those were my mom's. So my niece wore her shoes, and then my mom wore her shoes, and then I wore mine. And these are the ones that I wore. And so these are like these giant. These are utterly ridiculous. I mean, like the point. I wish I had more of like a rounded toe or whatever. But I needed to get some. These are like those, you know, fancy. I've seen pictures online of people like wearing these to like men. These are men's shoes. Shockingly enough, but I've seen people wear these to prom and like, you know, events like that. So these are mine, and they do fit my feet or whatever. And so it was just like, you know, ridiculous fun. Sitting around like watching the Wizard, or what we did was we watched Return to Oz, but we had this whole party. I'll talk more about it in Crafting with EG. But anyway, so these are my shoes, like the regular shoes, and then the last ones. These are the most ridiculous, but they are like utterly gorgeous. I mean, they're incredibly beautiful. Like the red is like the perfect kind of red, and I mean, see how big this heel is. I mean, I would break my neck wearing these things, but they do actually fit my feet. I wear a 12. If you wear a men's 12, it's a 14 in women's, and so I had to, you know, buy a 14. These were probably more expensive than all of the other shoes because I had to buy these on eBay, and I think these were like $40 or $50. Utterly ridiculous. I bought these for myself just because I felt like I wanted to have, like, you know, a ruby slipper to like stick on my feet just like one time before I die, because I used to like wear ruby slippers around when I was a kid. Shocking. Half the time they were just like my mom's red shoes, but I knew that these would fit me, even though they're like, you know, these ridiculous like platform, or I guess I don't know what you call these. They're not really platform shoes. There's like these, you know, giant heels or whatever. I don't know how big the heel is, a couple inches probably, but they are my favorite ones. And what I did was I wanted to get like some replicas sometime, even though I knew that they would never have them in my size, but I wanted to get like some replicas, but they were always like really expensive on eBay. And so I thought maybe I can get me like some glittery red shoes, and then like get some bows to put on them. And I was looking around on Etsy, and somebody had made I don't know, it's not really like a hair ribbon, like those things that you can clip in your hair or whatever. I have these like giant shoes and stuff, but I don't know what the hell those things are called that you like clip in your hair. Barrette, I don't know, like it was a ribbon thing that somebody made on Etsy, and it had like this gingham ribbon that was kind of wrapped around, and then this red bow on top. And the red bow just reminded me of the kind that is on the ruby slippers, like the actual ruby slippers from the movie. So I wanted to buy that ribbon just to, you know, pull the red bow off, just to, you know, put on these shoes. But the person on Etsy only had one, and so I actually contacted them, and she ended up making me another one just so I could have two of them. And then of course she didn't realize I was just going to rip the bow off just to put on these shoes. They look really accurate to the ones on the Wizard of Oz movie, and so they fit perfectly here on these shoes. I've just been reluctant to actually glue the bows to it, but that's why I got these bows. It just makes them look so accurate to the ruby slippers on the Wizard of Oz. If there was like a natural place to put this bow on these shoes, I probably would have, but like if I put them up here, like where it's supposed to naturally be, there's just like this, you know, big giant front end of the shoe. It would just look kind of awkward to have this bow here, and if you put it like in the middle here, it just doesn't really go there either. And so I just haven't put this on my shoes yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to put them on these ridiculous drag queen heels, because they fit perfectly there, and it feels like they're naturally supposed to be there. So those are probably my favorite ones from my collection. I do have another pair. Well, I do have some that are ornaments. I'll show those too. But I do have another pair. And these aren't the exact ones that I had when I was a kid. But I don't know what happened to those. I probably wore them so much that I ended up breaking them. But I wanted to get like some replicas of the ones that I used to have when I was a kid. Like to think that my parents actually bought these for me when I was a kid. And like supported my Wizard of Oz obsession to the point where they actually bought me these shoes. And I was like clomping around in them like an idiot when I was a kid. But these are, the box is really messed up. I bought this on eBay. These are like the exact same kind of shoes that I had when I was a kid. They're just not the same ones, because I don't know what happened to those. But they're so old that like the bows are starting to come off and all that stuff. But these are the ones I used to like clomp around in when I was a kid. And so they're just made out of plastic, and they have just like a plastic looking bow and all that. But they do have some glitter in them, just a little bit of glitter in them. And but I just remember vividly, clomping around in these. So when I started to build like a Wizard of Oz collection, and I had all these ruby slippers and stuff, I was thinking I want to get some exactly like the ones I had when I was a kid. And so yeah, the box is really messed up and the bows are coming off. I can always glue those to it and everything. But I I just wanted to get a pair like the ones I had when I was a kid, and just to think that like that's how long ago it was that I used to love the Wizard of Oz. I used to be able to fit into shoes this exact size. I've loved the Wizard of Oz even before that. So I do have those too in my Ruby Slippers collection, and I'll probably put the Ruby Slippers that are crocheted for my niece with the display once I get it all done, because I've been so obsessed with my crocheting and all that kind of stuff, and all of my videos about crochet and like where I am is in my yarn room, and my yarn wall's behind here, but I've been so obsessed with all the yarn and the crochet and stuff that I've sort of neglected all of my other interests and all of my other collectibles, and so my Wizard of Oz stuff isn't as organized as all of my yarn and all that kind of stuff is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create like a really nice display of all my Wizard of Oz stuff, and I'll have a nice display of all of my Ruby Slippers too, and my mom's and my niece's too, all together on a nice display, and I'll show that in a future video or whatever. And I do have another little pair over there. I'll show that in my Crafting with EG episode. But like I said, I do have some ornaments too, and some of the ornaments are actually the Ruby Slippers. And I think these are all Hallmark ornaments. I'm not really sure. But there are these are the bigger ones, and so this feels like that hollow glass or whatever. It's kind of like delicate or whatever, but I have this on my shelf with my Wizard of Oz stuff. And then I have these. I think this was a Hallmark ornament too, but this is more solid. You can tell that this is like hollow glass, and this is like the more solid, but the Ruby Slippers too. And so I got those, and for a long time these were the big ones were on my Christmas tree, because like I said, my Christmas tree is up all year. Oh, speaking of that, I do have an ornament in here that I'll show. I'll show that here in a second. But my Christmas tree is up all year, and so these used to be on my tree, and then I had gotten these, and so for a long time I had this pair on my niece's tree in her playroom. It's not like a Christmas tree. It sort of evolved into more of like a decorative tree in her room, and like anytime we found any kind of like ornaments that not just like Christmas ornaments, any kind of ornaments or things that we can hang on her tree, it became like this pretty decorative tree in her room. And so for a long time these were on there, but I put this with my Wizard of Oz collection. And then the ornament I was talking about, I don't know how old this is. She has silver shoes, and I know that in the original Wizard of Oz book she has silver shoes, and they changed it to ruby because of making the Technicolor movie and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how old this is, or if this was like made after the Wizard of Oz, like the original movie came out, and they just used silver so they wouldn't get sued or whatever. I have no idea, but this is very old. There are a lot of ornaments on our Christmas tree that are like really, really old, like ones that were on my mom's tree when she was a little kid. And so this may very well have been like an ornament that was on my mom's tree when she was a little kid, and so that's why she has silver shoes and why she's so old looking. I don't know why she's wearing a hat, which is kind of weird. But this is like a very, very old Wizard of Oz ornament, and I guess this used to be Toto, this little blob here. Over the years, it just kind of turned into like this, blob of something. And then this like kind of basket thing is supposed to be her basket and her blue gingham dress, and so she has like silver shoes, but it's definitely supposed to be Dorothy, except for the hat, which is weird. I have no idea, and I don't know why her hand is like that. Her hand's kind of like, stay away from me, witch. I don't know why her hand's like that, but it's just like an adorable little ornament on our Christmas tree. We have a lot of like really unique, funny looking ornaments like this on our tree. And like for most people, they would look at this and say like, oh, her face is barely there anymore, and like Toto was just like a blob of fur at this point, and that they would just like get rid of this. But like there are a lot of ornaments on our tree that have like lost pieces, and there's a whole story that I'll tell in the future of like the story I came up with. It is utterly ridiculous, but I love that little story I came up with to kind of explain those ornaments. But we do have a lot of like really weird looking ornaments and stuff. Some with like that are missing a leg, or like some where their eyes have fallen off, or where their faces just kind of rubbed off over the years, or they're missing a shoe, or like they have like a little thing here that's supposed to be Toto, but it's just like this big blob of like, what I'm saying. We have a lot of like really weird looking old ornaments, but and so she just kind of fits in with all the other little oddball ornaments that we have. But that's on our Christmas tree, and I took that off to show you, because like I said, our Christmas tree up is all year, so I just pulled it off my Christmas tree a few minutes ago and just brought it in here. When I did buy this at Hobby Lobby, it's what it is red sequin. It's like stretchy material. I don't know, I guess it's like trim for something. I'd gotten this was on clearance, like a bolt. I don't know how much is left of it. Disco stretch sequin trim. For me, it's like ruby slipper trim. That's what it should be. But it's just like this stretchy. So I'm going to use this for my Wizard of Oz display too. I don't know where I'm going to use. Oh, and I do have I don't know where it is right now, but another thing I needed to organize is my craft stuff. But I do have a little spool of it's like that gingham gingham pattern. It's like blue and white checked. But I was going to use that ribbon in the display too, but I'm not sure what that is right now. But another thing I need to get to, but there's that. But I'll show these plates. These two right here I've shown in a previous video because I bought them sort of recently, like within the last few months. But this one right here, and I got to make sure this the music doesn't come on because it does play Somewhere Over the Rainbow or Over the Rainbow from the Wizard of Oz, and so it has this little music box thing, and you just turn that right there, and it has a music box that it actually goes through the plate itself. But I have this gorgeous plate, if you remember that from a previous video. So I have that one, and then this one right here. Oh, I was going like this because I was thinking, because those glittery shoes are kind of sheddy, and there's all kinds of glitter here on this table. I know it'll spread out into the world like magic. That's another story for in the future. But I was going like this. I was thinking that there was like some glitter on it, but all it is like the little red dots from that are supposed to be the apples in the apple tree. But anyway, I got this at Goodwill, and I showed that in a previous haul too. Just I mean, it really does look exactly like her. And the beautiful ruby slippers. I just love that. And then I do have some stands, but I'm gonna need to get some more stands. I thought I had enough of those stands, but I keep getting all these plates and stuff and using the stands. Plates for my mom too. We've gotten her some decorative plates too, but these stand, or what do they call it, easels, plastic display easel, whatever. The plate stands or display easels, and so these things right here, I need to get more of these. I've gotten these at Hobby Lobby, but see the plates just sit on the little stands like this, and then you can just put them on your shelf and display them. So those are the two that I showed in a previous video, and I did show these in a previous video, but it was just like a really quick shot, but I didn't show them in detail because I had them packed away. And I'd gotten these at Salvation Army a few months ago, and they were expensive in Salvation Army, but they were worth every penny just because I saw those in there, and I thought like, God, I know that's expensive, and I'm usually cheap as hell, like especially when it comes to yarn and like all this stuff. But like when I saw those plates, I thought, God, I don't care how much they are, I want to get them, even though they were expensive in Salvation Army. I mean, they are just like incredible. I could not believe that these were in there, and they had all of them. I think that there is one that that's part of this collection that has the wizard on it, and then I think there's another one with the Munchkins, but I don't have those. But I have like all the main characters. That's all I care about. As long as I have a depiction of all the main characters, that's all I really care about. And so the plates are like these plastic plates, but they have these like 3D elements coming off the top of them. It's incredible. I mean, I cannot believe that these actually exist. So here's like the plate with like the Tin Man, and then look at this, like it's like this 3D element coming off the top. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, can you imagine being a Wizard of Oz fan since you were like literally too small to even talk, and then you know, seeing this in Salvation Army, no matter what price it was, I think it was like $150 for all of these, but like, which is, you know, insane for me to spend that kind of money on something on like plates I can't even eat off of. But God, I love the Wizard of Oz so much, and I saw these, I could not resist because they're just like, they're so incredibly gorgeous, and I'm gonna have such a nice display of all of my Wizard of Oz stuff, and these are gonna go perfectly with all of that. But it's just amazing, and even though like the picture is just like a picture on the plate, like the photo quality is really nice, and it's just gorgeous. And so that's the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion. So there's the plate, and then this is what he looks like. I mean, it's amazing. The only thing was, they said a little piece of his fur had broken off, and so but they actually had the little piece of fur that they gave me, so I'm super glued that back, so it just goes right here in the front. It's just amazing. He's wearing like the crown that he made out of that flower pot and everything. I mean, God, can you see why I spent what I did on these plates? I mean, it was hard to resist. And then there's Dorothy, and then there's Dorothy like holding Toto, and I mean, oh God, it's just amazing. These plates are just absolutely incredible. And there's a Scarecrow. I mean, God. I'll save her for last. That's the Wicked Witch. And Glinda. I mean, look at that. I mean, and the faces and everything, and it has her wand and her crown, and it's incredible. When I do have a bunch of extra easels down here in the bottom of this box, I forgot I got some. But the last one is the Wicked Witch, and so that's the plate. All of them, you know, terrified. And then there she is. And just like the detail on her hands and stuff, these are gorgeous. I just couldn't believe how beautiful these were. So the ruby slippers and those plates are like the main big thing in my collection. I mean, I do have some other things. And then I do have this ornament. This is a Hallmark ornament too. Dorothy laying down in the poppies, and it has her ruby slippers. Like if there's ever an ornament without a ruby slippers, I probably won't get it. Like that's how obsessed I am with the ruby slippers. Because it has to have the ruby slippers somewhere in it. And then I do have this. I found this at Goodwill or something, and this looks like something that somebody made. It looks like they printed a picture of them at the gates of the Emerald City onto a CD. I don't know if there's anything on this CD. But then they made a clock out of it. It's kind of faded at this point, but I bought it just because it had the Wizard of Oz on it. And what's funny is like the only part that's not really faded is the part down here with the ruby slippers. And so that's like, you know, the perfect kind of thing. But it's like this weird random thing in my collection. And of course I'll put my Wizard of Oz crochet with my Wizard of Oz collection too, and have it all displayed together. And then this book that I showed in my Crocheting with E.G. episode. I bought this at Ollie's, this book about the Wizard of Oz. And I have my bookmarks in it that I crocheted, and these are little tassels that are hanging out of it. And so I'll put that with my collection too. And then I do have a cup. I used it so much that the inside of the cup came out. It just like broke off of the actual base of it. I hate that I don't use this anymore because I used to use it all the time. But it's just like this gorgeous green cup. And even the straw is kind of metallic-y looking or whatever. I think I got this on Amazon. But it has, or it used to have, there's no place like home on it, but it started to kind of rub off. But it has the ruby slippers there with the Emerald City. So it's just like a plastic cup. I see like the interior came off of like the outside. And so I don't use it anymore. But I'm just going to keep that display with my Wizard of Oz stuff. And then this was like a puzzle. I don't know what happened to the puzzle, but this was a box. It was in some like really old stuff that we were going through one time a few years ago. We had the box to the puzzle, but I don't know what happened to the puzzle. But I put that with my Wizard of Oz collection because, you know, you can see the ruby slippers and that scene from the Wizard of Oz. And so it's just like a puzzle box. It just doesn't have the puzzle, unfortunately. But it's a perfectly good picture on that box to go with my collection. So that's where it'll be. I was thinking, and that's where they are, and that's where they'll stay. That's where this is, and that's where that'll stay. And then I do have this. I showed this in a previous video. It's this lunchbox kind of thing with the ruby slippers on it. It looks like a TV. I got this at a local thrift store. It's not like a vintage lunchbox, like the kind that would have like a thermos in it or anything, but it's just like this decorative lunchbox that looks like a TV. So, but I showed that in a previous video, but I didn't show this one in a previous video. It is like a lunchbox too. I bought this at a local pawn shop, actually. And this is really gorgeous too. It has scenes from the movie and quotes on the side like that, and then the logo there, and her sleeping in the poppies, and it's just like this lunch box. But there's this really nice thrift store around here that it doesn't just have like movies and tools and like the normal stuff that you would think of in a pawn shop. They have like a whole bunch of like collectibles and stuff in there too, and so they had this in there. I got that. And then this Wizard of Oz magazine, I showed this in a previous video too. I got it at CVS. I don't know if it was like some kind of anniversary or what, but it was just like this magazine about the Wizard of Oz, so I got that. I got that a couple months ago. And then I do have this, spread the glitter out into the world. The Wizard of Oz trivia game. This is a really cool game. My niece and I played this. Some of the questions in here are a little too hard for a kid. Some of them are even too hard for me. You know, I hate those trivia games about movies and TV shows where it's like, what's the name of the crew member that, like, you know, that like stuff that you would never know unless you were like a really obsessed fan, or like, you know, somebody that was part of the movie or TV show. There are some really hard questions in this, surprisingly enough. But it is a really cool game, and I love those games that come in the metal tins. It's like, this is what the board looks like. It is a really fun game, and you collect these little things, and you basically build a little rainbow, you know, because like over the rainbow, and all these different colored things like this. And then you just answer trivia questions, and all the cards for like little kids have pictures on them, and so there's like these. But like some of the questions are just like a little too hard for like a kid. You'd have to be like a really hardcore Wizard of Oz fan that like actually read all the behind the scenes books and all that kind of stuff to, like, I'm obsessed with the Wizard of Oz and the Ruby Slippers, and I know all the songs and stuff, and I do collect all these things. But like, I don't know like the ins and outs of all the production and all that kind of stuff. I'm not like that much of a hardcore fan that I would know some of these questions. Billy Burke, Glinda, was married to what famous Broadway producer? Billy Rose or Florenz Ziegfeld? Like that kind of stuff. Like, it has nothing to do with the Wizard of Oz. Like, those kind of questions were too hard for her. But like, luckily the ones that have the pictures on them are the easier cards for little kids and stuff. But even adults would have a hard time answering some of those questions. But I guess if it was easy, then, you know, everybody would win, and, you know, it wouldn't be like a game. It would just be like, you know, us sitting around like reading cards and answering questions, and it wouldn't be an actual game. And I have this postcard of the ruby slippers. I got this at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. When I went there on a school trip, and I didn't get to see the ruby slippers. I'll talk about that in storytelling with E.G. But I did get a postcard, and I do have a couple things that I don't know where they are right now. I don't even know if I still have this, but I'd gotten, when I went, speaking of, when I went to Washington, D.C., and I didn't get to see the ruby slippers, I got this wooden plaque thing, and it was like a wooden plaque, and the picture on it, I think, was the one where they just got to the Emerald City, and they were like, you know, looking across the poppy field, and there's that that iconic picture of them, you know, their faces, you know, as they're like, you know, finally seeing the Emerald City. I think it's that picture on that plaque thing, but I don't know where that is right now. And then I did get my niece these dolls. I have the display here. I'd gotten these dolls. I can't remember the company name, but I went into Target, and they had this box, and it had Dorothy in it, and the Wicked Witch, and then there was a little depiction of Toto, but it was kind of this flat thing. But I'd gotten that for my niece to play with, and it's in her toys, but I've since boxed up her toys, you know, as she got older. I know I still have them. I would never get rid of those dolls, but so I know I still have them, but they're just boxed up in her toys in her playroom. But I remember I had to hot glue the ruby slippers to Dorothy's feet because they kept falling off. Like, no wonder the doll market on eBay and everywhere, like there's more money in like the accessories to dolls than the actual dolls, because of how often you know, kids play with the dolls and then they lose the shoes or the purses or the clothes or like whatever. But I I remember hot gluing the ruby slippers to her feet. But it was just like those two characters in that thing. And then the box itself is like a display that you can play with the dolls in. And so that's in her stuff too. And I know I also bought the soundtrack CD at the gift shop at the Smithsonian. But it's in my CDs. I've since packed my CDs away. Because you know how everything's digital or whatever, and you can just like listen to music on apps or YouTube or like whatever. But I know I have the soundtrack on CD. I do have the cassette. Well, I'm going to save this. I do have VHS tapes and DVDs and Blu-rays and a couple of the books. I'll save all that for the physical media with EG. But I'll go into greater details about those and the books too. But I did keep this display that the dolls came in, and I do have this box that. This is the box that my mom's ruby slippers came in. And so this is what they look like on the box. But I wanted to keep the box because it does have, you know, Dorothy on it and all that. So I do have that. So you can tell I'm a collector because I keep the boxes and stuff too. Even if I take them out of the box, I keep the box. And I think the only other thing is this purse. And I jokingly say that, you know, I carry a purse all the time. I have like one of those crossbody bags. But I jokingly say it was basically a purse at this point. But I do have some actual purses. Like in my Lucy collection, I have a lot of purses. And I have this Wizard of Oz purse. I got this at Goodwill. I don't know how much this was. This was back before my Goodwills merged into one, and they started to put like really expensive stuff in there. But this was back then when like purses, even like the more collectible ones, you could get for like an affordable price. I've seen purses in my local Goodwill that are like, you know, $30, $40, $50, like ridiculous prices. There's no way, as much as I love the Wizard of Oz or even Lucy, I would never spend that much on, or I've seen some Harry Potter purses that were that expensive. I would never spend that much on a purse, even though I love the Wizard of Oz and I love Lucy. So I think this is probably like $8 or something, what I remember about it. But this was just in Goodwill, and it has them walking down the yellow brick road, or skipping down the yellow brick road, and it has some little rhinestones on it in like random places, and a really pretty purse. This is one of those things where I said I sort of have radar as far as like collectibles go, and sometimes I'll like be with my mom, because I was with my mom this day, and we were like getting ready to go through the line, and I saw this purse out of my peripheral vision on the shelf, and I was thinking, oh, there's like Dorothy, there's ruby slippers, and so like she knows if I just like suddenly dart off away from her that I must see something, you know, like my radar is going off, and I like see something and I go right to it, and so she saw me like run off, and she didn't know what it was, but she just knew that it was something, and it was something good that I saw, and so I came back with this, and yes, it's a ridiculous purse that I'm never going to actually carry. But I just had to get it from my Wizard of Oz collection, whether I carry the freaking purse or not. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this Collecting with EG episode. So stay tuned next for Physical Media with EG. Hello, I'm EG, and in this episode of Physical Media with EG, I'm going to be showing my Wizard of Oz themed physical media. VHS tapes, DVDs, Blu-rays, not just The Wizard of Oz. I do have some of the other movies, you know, Return to Oz, Oz the Great and Powerful, all that kind of stuff. And I do have a cassette tape, and then I do have some of the books. I don't have all the books. I need to get all the books sometime. But I'll show the books that I do have. And then when I was looking around in my DVDs and Blu-rays, getting those out, I was thinking about that there are some TV shows and movies that I have in my collection that have like references to the Wizard of Oz, and so I thought I'd, you know, pull a couple of those out just to talk about those too, since I was going to be talking about physical media and all that stuff anyway. But anyway, so I'll show those too. Of course, I already showed this book when I was showing the bookmarks that I crocheted and the tassels that I made. So I showed that book. And then I have these books too. This one says Great Illustrated Classics, The Wizard of Oz. I don't know. I know that there are different versions of the story where they took the original book, and I know that there are ones where they edited it differently and all that. I don't know if these are like the uncut ones or not, or how official these are. I have no idea. What's weird is this one has the ruby slippers on the cover. So I don't know. This must be like something kind of unofficial. Yeah, see, this is a specially adapted version. So there are ones out there that are different than the original version. So you guys have to kind of pay attention to like which version you have. But I saw something Wizard of Oz related. I think that I got these at like a Goodwill or a thrift store or something. But you know, I see the Wizard of Oz, I'm just going to grab it. Whether it's one that is all edited or adapted differently or like whatever. If it has the Wizard of Oz on it and Dorothy and all that, I'm going to get it. And so I have this one too. This is from the Great Classics for Children series or whatever. So I have that version of the book. And then the DVDs and Blu-rays and all that kind of stuff. Now, like I said, I love The Wizard of Oz, but I also love Return to Oz. If you've never seen Return to Oz, like you need to watch Return to Oz too. Don't think of it as like a direct sequel to The Wizard of Oz, because, you know, for one thing, the tone of it is really different. It's more reflective of the original books, but it's completely different than the tone of the original movie. It's really, like, Return to Oz is a very dark movie, but it's a really good movie, and like the score is really good, and like the performances, and because it's more reflective of the book, it does have, it's like a darker tone, and it's not a musical or anything. But if you haven't seen Return to Oz, you need to give it a shot, especially as an adult, because there are some really darker elements to it that, you know, an adult will appreciate too. If you're just used to the original Wizard of Oz, the musical and stuff, and Technicolor, and everybody skipping and dancing, and if you're used to that, and you're going to go into Return to Oz thinking that that's what it's going to be, you're going to be surprised how much an adult can appreciate Return to Oz too. But I do have the Wizard of Oz on DVD and VHS and Blu-ray. I don't have a Return to Oz on Blu-ray. It was one of those like Disney Club exclusive things, and by the time I even realized that Disney Club was a thing and they had a Return to Oz on Blu-ray, it was already sold out, and the Disney Club had closed, and they don't have that anymore. And all the Blu-rays were popping up on eBay for like over $100 a piece, and so I don't have that on Blu-ray. I do have it on video and on DVD. But of course, I have the original Wizard of Oz. I have they have all kinds of editions of this, and they have like even bigger deluxe editions and all that. But the only one I have is this 70th anniversary edition, the 2-disc edition of The Wizard of Oz. It has all kinds of special features on it and all that. And then I have the Blu-ray of The Wizard of Oz. And like, you don't even need to get the Blu-ray to appreciate the special effects in The Wizard of Oz. I mean, it's amazing how well it holds up after so many years. I mean, this was made in the 30s. And to think that how long ago it was, and like that tornado scene. I mean, I know with CGI and all that kind of stuff nowadays, you can make a tornado look even more realistic. But like, it is shocking watching The Wizard of Oz after all these years, and like just looking at that tornado and thinking, wow, it really does hold up after so many years. And they didn't have like computers and you know, CGI, and they didn't have any of that kind of stuff, but like it is so realistic. I mean, it is shocking how realistic it is. But I have the DVD and the Blu-ray, and then I have 2 copies of the movie on VHS. I'll probably have some other ones too. I need to get on all my VHS tapes and go through those and organize those, because I've had physical media for years since I was growing up. You know, VHS tapes, and then on the DVDs, and then Blu-rays and all that. I haven't gone to the 4K or anything yet. But I know I probably have some other editions of the Wizard of Oz. They probably don't work anymore, because I used to, you know, just rewind them and like play them and rewind them and play them over and over and over and over. God knows how many editions of this I have, and whether they work or not, I seriously doubt it. But I do have this one. It's a really pretty cover. This is just the VHS tape. It actually has like special features on the VHS tape. Do you even know what a VHS tape? You better know what a VHS tape is. I'm assuming that like if you're watching my channel and you're watching this to this point of the video, through my lineup, that you're somebody that remembers what a VHS tape is. I hope I don't have to tell you that, but I do have this edition, and then this one. I thought this was really cool. Of course, I already had this one, but so I didn't really need another VHS tape. But the box was so cool that I had to get another copy of it. But it's this one, the 50th anniversary edition, and so it comes in this really nice box, and then this opens up like this, and it has this little booklet in here, with all this behind the scenes stuff. Like, this was really cool. So of course I didn't need another copy of The Wizard of Oz, but like I had to get it just because of how nice this box was, and like even the label on it has the ruby slippers on it, so I thought that was really cool. But this is a really cool edition to have this really nice book in it and everything. So I have that, and then like I said, I do have the cassette tape of the soundtrack, and I know I have the CD. I just don't know where it is because I have my CDs packed away. But I gotten that in Washington D.C. and at the Smithsonian. So I have that. I wish that they put the Return to Oz soundtrack out on CD, because the score in that movie. I mean, of course everybody knows the iconic songs from The Wizard of Oz, but like the score in Return to Oz, I think it's David Shire is his name. Like the score is so incredible in that movie. God, I do love. I mean, I love The Wizard of Oz. Of course, it's always going to be #1 in my head. But I love Return to Oz too. But I don't think they ever released the soundtrack. But I do have the DVD of Return to Oz. I just don't have the Blu-ray. But I don't think there's a whole bunch of like extra special features. One thing about me is I'm kind of a Luddite, and that kind of translates into physical media too. Like I grew up watching VHS tapes, and so when a DVD came out, that was like, you know, a really big upgrade. And so like it's even weird for me to go upgrade to like a Blu-ray. And so like even now, I know they have like 4K and all that kind of stuff, but like the only reason now I'll buy a Blu-ray is if I don't have the DVD. You know, I come across it and there's a movie that I really want and they don't have it on DVD, then I'll buy the Blu-ray. Or if I have it on DVD, the only reason to buy the Blu-ray in my head is if it's like a lot of special effects, or if there's like some extra bonus features that aren't on the DVD. Like, you know, they have like some new documentaries or a new commentary track or that kind of stuff. Then I'll upgrade to a Blu-ray. But if it's just like the movie and it's like the same stuff from the DVD, like there's no real reason for me to upgrade to a Blu-ray. I do love how Blu-ray discs are more scratch resistant, but for me, I'm still such a Luddite that, like, you know, if the DVD copy that I have is good enough, then I don't need to upgrade. I just feel like there are some movies where I feel like I don't have the need to upgrade to Blu-ray. And I probably would have bought Return to Oz on Blu-ray if it wasn't so insanely expensive on eBay. If I would have known, if it was like a wide release and I would have known about it, I probably would have bought it on Blu-ray. But I don't think there's any extra special features on the Blu-ray compared to the original DVD. So I see. With Return to Oz, I'm so used to like watching the VHS tape when I was a kid. So like I don't have this sense of urgency, like, oh, I got to get the Blu-ray, I have to see it in HD. Like that doesn't really matter to me, because, like, you know, it's almost more nostalgic to, like, you know, watch it on a VHS tape. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how I used to watch it all the time. So that's why I don't have the Blu-ray. Also because I'm cheap. I'm not going to spend $150 or whatever the hell it is on eBay for the Blu-ray of Return to Oz. But I do have the DVD. And if you haven't watched Return to Oz, you need to watch this. You need to find it somewhere and watch this movie. It's a really good movie. Just don't think of it as a direct sequel to The Wizard of Oz, because then you'll think, oh God, this is awful. This is like so different. It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to be more like the books. And it's a really good movie. It has Feruza Balk from the Craft. She plays Dorothy in this. And I mean, it's such a good movie. And Piper Laurie, you know, Carrie's mom from, you know, the Stephen King Carrie movie. She plays Annie Ann, and Jean Marsh. That's what her name is. Yeah, Jean Marsh. She plays Mombi, and it's a really good movie. And because of this movie, every time I've seen anything green, like I have this urge to like walk over to it and touch it and say Oz, just to see if it'll turn into some character from Oz. But I do love Return to Oz just as much as The Wizard of Oz. And then I found this VHS tape copy of Return to Oz. I think I found this at Goodwill one time. What's really cool about this is it came with a postcard. So I thought that was really cool. And then when you look at it, if you open it up wide enough, you can see that, like, on the inside of it, there's a picture on the reverse side, the case art, and it has this on the inside. So that was kind of a cool surprise. But hopefully, if you're a Wizard of Oz fan and you're watching this ridiculously long lineup of episodes of my shows, and you're enjoying this, hopefully you knew about and love Return to Oz as much as I do too. I know it's not as loved as the Wizard of Oz, but I feel like the people that love Return to Oz are probably more like the hardcore kind of fans than the people who just, like, you know, love the Wizard of Oz as like this, you know, nostalgic thing. The people that love Return to Oz are the kind of people that, like, really love Return to Oz and appreciate it for like the what an incredible film this is. I mean, I know that The Wizard of Oz is a film, but like it just feels like, you know, The Wizard of Oz feels in my head more like a movie, and then Return to Oz was more like the film. You know what I'm saying? If you know the difference. And then I do have Oz the Great and Powerful. Of course, Oz the Great and Powerful is not as good as The Wizard of Oz and Return to Oz, but I do love this movie. I actually saw this in the theater. It was the first time I'd ever gone into the theater and saw a movie in 3D. I mean, it was just mind-blowing. I could not believe how cool watching a movie in 3D was. So I went to see Oz the Great and Powerful, and I mean, of course it's not as good as the originals, but it is actually a really good movie. The special effects are really good. I love that moment, and because it starts off in 4:3, like the original Wizard of Oz, and it's like, you know, in sepia, and then when he first gets to Oz, the screen kind of goes out into widescreen, and then it goes to full color, you know, kind of reminiscent of the original Wizard of Oz. It's a really cool effect. But I did really enjoy this movie at the theater, and especially seeing it in 3D, because it was just like my first exposure to like a 3D movie, and it was just like, it was so mind-blowing and really cool. I've seen some movies since then in 3D, but a few years ago my theater's 3D system broke, and for years they didn't replace it, and so I don't know if they because there have been a couple movies that have come out that I wished I could have seen in 3D, but my theater doesn't have 3D anymore. But I did see a couple more movies in 3D after this one, but this was my very first one. It was so cool. And I do have this one on Blu-ray. I found this at a pawn shop. It's like, this is the kind of movie that I don't mind upgrading to Blu-ray, just because of like all the special effects. Like, I don't need to see like as much as I love like Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. I don't need to see, I don't know why that was a movie off the top of my head, but like I don't need to see like, you know, Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion in HD. But like movies like, you know, Spider-Man or some disaster movie or whatever, like, you know, those are the perfect kind of movies to get on Blu-ray, because they're so special effects heavy, and like it's worth seeing them in HD because of like all the special effects and the graphics and everything. But I found this at a pawn shop, so that's why I bought that on Blu-ray. So I do have that, and then I do have the Dorothy Must Die books. I know that these aren't like, you know, connected to the original books and everything, but I found these at a Goodwill one time, and I think I have all of them. I know that there are a couple extras that were like in between, and I know that there was some stories that were like online exclusive or something, and I don't know if I have all of the stories, but I do have these books. They seemed kind of interesting. They sounded interesting, but I don't know if they're going to be good or not, but I do have these books as part of my collection. And I'm sure that I have, you know, multiple copies of The Wizard of Oz, and probably Return to Oz too, like recorded, like on VHS tapes. I recorded off, you know, like the Disney Channel or something like that over the years. I'm sure I have, like, there are moments like when I'm watching The Wizard of Oz where I know that like there used to be a commercial right here. Like, I remember watching my VHS recordings of The Wizard of Oz so much. I know where all of the commercials were, like from years and years ago. I don't even remember what channel it was. Like, before, you know, it was on TBS or TNT or like, you know, one of those channels. It was like, you know, years and years ago. I remember like watching it so much that I know that, oh, like I know that in my VHS recording, I know that when the lion, you know, runs, you know, gets scared from the wizard, and he like runs down that hallway and he like, you know, jumps through the window. I know that like on my VHS recording, I know that when he jumps through that window, it goes to commercial. So it's weird that I know that, but because I watched it so much, just because I was so obsessed with it. And I know I have the, I think it's a sci-fi miniseries. It was called Tin Man. It has Zooey Deschanel in it. I think they named her character DG instead of like Dorothy Gale. I know I have that. I've never watched it before, but I know I have it on DVD. I think I got it a couple months ago. But another thing I need to do is organize all my DVDs and stuff. That's another thing I've sort of neglected, you know, being so obsessed with, you know, yarn and the crochet and making sure all my yarn is organized and all that. I've sort of neglected my physical media collection, and I need to focus on that more. And so I know that I have that Tin Man miniseries, but I'm not really sure exactly where it is right now. Because like when I go to all these thrift stores and Goodwills and all that kind of stuff and get DVDs or whatever, I just bring it home. I just stack them all on my shelves or whatever, and I think, well, I'll get to it later. That's why I sort of, you know, wanted to evolve my channel into more of like all of my interests or whatever, because I just feel like because I was so obsessed with the crochet, I just feel like I kept pushing my other interests off. And so like when I bring home all these DVDs, I'm just sort of stacking them up on my shelf, you know, with the intention of getting to them later and organizing them and putting them in order or like whatever. But I know I have that somewhere, but I just don't know where it is. And I've never seen Wicked or any of those. I've never seen the films or the original musical or anything. Full disclosure, I'm going to make like a gay faux pas by even saying this, but I'm not really crazy about musicals. I mean, I love me talking about The Wizard of Oz and loving The Wizard of Oz so much, but I've never really been a fan of musicals. The musicals I love are the ones that I grew up with, and I love them in more of a nostalgic aspect. I'm sure if the musicals that they have now, I would have grown up with them, I probably would have loved them, but because I love like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or you know, The Wizard of Oz, or they were movies that I grew up with, and so that's why I love them. But like I'm just not, you know, particularly crazy about musicals and stuff, and so, you know, sorry. That's why I never really had the interest of like watching Wicked, or like it's not like I live near New York City or whatever can actually see the play or the musical or whatever. But I know that they have like the films and stuff, but I've never watched those either. But I think I might have the book somewhere. But because I saw that in Goodwill one time, and I need to organize my books too. But I think I have like the original musical when it was a book or something, or I think I have some kind of Wicked book. I can't remember what it was. And I wish that they had all of the seasons of Mad TV out on DVD. Like I've said in previous videos, my sense of humor is more like Mad TV instead of Saturday Night Live, if you understand that reference. I used to love Mad TV, and they had some amazing Wizard of Oz sketches. You'll have to, you know, try to find them online somewhere. I don't know if it's streaming somewhere or what, but they have like some incredible Wizard of Oz sketches on Mad TV. But they don't have all the seasons of Mad TV on DVD. But I guess the only thing I'll talk about here at the end of this, before I get on to crafting with EG, is I'll show the DVDs I just kind of randomly pulled off my shelves, and I thought, oh, there's an episode of that mentions The Wizard of Oz, or they mention it in this movie. I just kind of like, you know, randomly picked a couple ones off the top of my head. I'm sure my physical media collection is so big, I probably missed a couple. I'm sure that there's, because there's references of The Wizard of Oz in, you know, a lot of movies, and TV shows and stuff, and so I'm sure there are more that I just missed. But these are the ones off the top of my head. Like this many right here, just off the top of my head. That's how ingrained it is in our culture. But I pulled off ER season 8. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen ER. But that famous cover of Over the Rainbow is used very well in an episode in season 8. But I won't say what it is, because it's a very big episode. If you know. It's like a pivotal moment in the series of ER, and so, but they use that song in the episode. It's called On the Beach. But if you plan on watching ER like from the beginning, don't like pop in this episode, you know, or find it online, or pop it in like if you have the DVDs. Don't watch that episode until you watch the whole series, because it's an amazing, incredible episode. It would be a huge spoiler if I told you like what happens in that episode, but it's in season 8. So I brought down ER. I do love ER. I have all of the seasons of ER. I think I've watched up to like maybe season 12 or something like that. I'd gotten the DVDs, or no, the show was on, what was it, the TV Guide channel, or when they rebranded it to Pop, or whatever the hell it was. And so they used to have ER on all the time, and my mom had watched it, and then I got the DVDs because she said it was so good. I missed the DVD. I was like, and this, I was like, stabbed myself with my fingernail. No, such a mess. Like, I'm trying to like make this this, you know, lineup video like really organized and stuff, but I'm still a mess. It's just like structured differently, but I'm still a freaking mess like always. But I bought all the DVDs because my mom was saying how good that show was, and she was like in the middle of watching it or whatever, and so there were episodes that she had missed, and so I found the DVDs. I think I bought them on eBay or something, and so we started to watch them from the beginning, and then like because of like what happened with the pandemic and like all that crap, for some reason we just got sidetracked with a lot of the TV shows we were watching and stuff, and so we just haven't finished watching ER, and so I think we're up to like season 12, 11 or 12, or like one of those. I think there's 15 seasons of ER, but season 8 is the one with that episode that I was thinking of, that has that song, and a very important episode for the series, but whatever. And then the movie Twister, not just because there's a tornado, but because of the device that they used. That had the little sensors in it. You know, they want to you know, have it fly up into the tornado, like, you know, get data and stuff. You know, it's called Dorothy, and it has, you know, a picture of her and the ruby slippers on and all that stuff. So of course I think of The Wizard of Oz whenever I think of Twister, not just because of the tornado. And then Once Upon a Time, this is that show that was on ABC. I think I've seen every single season except for the last one, and I've gotten the last one recently, like in the past month or two, at a pawn shop, and so I do have that one. But I think I watched all of them. It's been so long though. I think I watched them like as it was coming out, but I haven't watched it a second time since I watched the original time it aired on TV. But I know that season 3 features a lot of Wizard of Oz stuff. Now I remember that being a really good plot in season 3. So I brought that. And then the Golden Girls, I brought this. I have all of the Golden Girls on DVD, but I brought down this one. This is the 7th and final season. Because there's an episode called Dateline Miami. This is just one of the more like obscure references. Like it's not as, you know, blatant as like, oh, they have a whole plot line with like the characters from the Wizard of Oz. I was just thinking about this episode. So I remember there's a scene in the restaurant where that guy comes over and he goes, well, Peter, you know, that guy, and then he goes, we just swing the way the wind blows, don't we? And then he calls Rose Glinda, the Good Witch of the North. You know, that scene from the Golden Girls. That's the only like Wizard of Oz reference that I remember from the Golden Girls. But speaking of that episode, Dateline in Miami, of course there are a lot of episodes that I love of the Golden Girls, but there are some that I love in a different way. That episode of Golden Girls is a really unique episode. There's like one of those in almost every single season where I don't know what you call them. They're almost like flashback episodes. But the flashbacks are new scenes, and some of the episodes are kind of like there's like Three on a Couch, that's one. Mother's Day is one. How They Met is one. There are episodes where like they're sitting around and they're talking or like whatever, and then when they flash back, they're all new scenes, the scenes that we haven't seen before. And some of the flashbacks are like ones where you get to see Dorothy when she was younger. That woman that portrayed Dorothy was incredible. It got down B. Arthur's mannerisms and everything. It was like so incredible. But I love those episodes where it's almost like they had like some extra story. What I'm imagining, like it goes on and went in the writer's room. That they had like a bunch of like little mini stories that they didn't really know how to incorporate into full episodes or like expand into full episodes, and they thought maybe we can take an episode and have like these little mini flashbacks and have like these tiny stories. Like when they flashback, they're kind of like these little self-contained stories. Happy Birthday is one of, or like the birthday cake. I forget the name of that one. I love that scene with Rose and she like has her birthday cake and she makes it for herself. Like you know those episodes of Golden Girls. I think there's like one in almost every single season. Of course, there are other episodes in the Golden Girls that I love a lot more. You know, that are a lot better than those episodes. But there's just like this special place in my heart for like those episodes. I don't know why. I just love the kind of flashback element and how these are really funny little self-contained stories or whatever. But that's one of them. It's every single one of the stories is about like some kind of blind date or like random date kind of thing. And one of them was where Rose was like dating this weird guy, and it turned out he was like some philanderer, and all these people kept coming up to him and like knew him, and you know that episode. And then of course there had to be a gay guy walk up to him and apparently hooked up with him too, and he's the one that called Rose Glinda, the Good Witch of the North. There's that. And then Jumanji, I do have that on DVD and Blu-ray just because I do love Jumanji, and this is a special effects heavy movie too. But I pulled this off the shelf because I remember that scene when the monkeys are like running through the town and running amok. Now I'm thinking about Hocus Pocus. They're like running amok or whatever, and then they stop in front of that store window, and the Wizard of Oz is playing on the TV in the window, and then they see that the Wicked Witch is flying monkeys, stomping all over the Scarecrow, and then they start stomping or whatever. Get inspired by the Wizard of Oz. That's the only reason I brought this down here, because I remember that scene from Jumanji. It's a really good movie. And then Mama's Family. This is season 5. There's an episode of Mama's Family called "I Hate Thy Neighbor," and I love Thelma in this because the way she screams like this visceral scream sometimes in the show, but she really like she must have been hoarse after she filmed that episode, because she screams a lot in that episode. It's a really good episode where she is fighting with a neighbor, and of course Bubba falls in love with her granddaughter, and it causes all kinds of trouble. But it starts with her in the front yard after she did her yard work, and then the neighbor comes over and he has a leaf blower and he's blowing leaves onto her yard. And then and the only reason I thought of this episode is because she says, "God, I want to wind up in Oz," and just because like the wind and stuff. Like see, totally obscure reference. Like it's very fitting that I had the idea to do this because I make all kinds of TV and movie references. It's because I watch TV and movies so much and I'm so obsessed with it. It was very easy for me to like just look at my DVDs and think, oh, there's a Wizard of Oz reference in this. There's a Wizard of Oz reference in this and this and this and this, because it's so easy for me to like recall lines like that. Because I remembered there's an episode of Mama's Family where she says something about I'm going to wind up in Oz. Oh, and it was that leaf blower thing. Oh, hate thy neighbor. It's like I could think of it like that, and then I had to like figure out what a season the episode was in. But then there it was, So I do have all of Mama's Family on DVD. I showed that in a previous video. I have the really nice big box set of Mama's Family on DVD. But that episode is in the 5th season. And then I brought down Everybody Loves Raymond, the 7th season, just because of the obscure reference. There's that episode, Marie's Vision, where Marie gets glasses or whatever, and then because she has glasses, she can see things more vividly and stuff, and she starts noticing things, and people start feeling really self-conscious and stuff. And there's that scene where she must have said something to Robert about the wrinkles on his face, so he got those injections in his face or whatever, and then he can barely talk. He's talking like this, and then Raymond makes that joke about the Tin Man. You need an oil can Tin Man or like whatever. That's the only reference that I remember in the show. But But they do make a Wizard of Oz reference in Everybody Loves Raymond. And then a 2.5 Men, this is in the 3rd season. There's the episode where, I'm actually not really crazy about that episode. I know a lot of people I know it's a Halloween episode. It's where Charlie dates that girl that turns out to be a witch or something, and she's like, he thinks that she's cursing him and all that. It's not really that good of an episode. To me, I'm just not crazy about that episode. The woman in it was really good. Like, her performance is really great. They actually brought her back a couple times too. But she was really good in the part, but I wasn't crazy about that episode. But it's worth watching just because of the final scenes where Evelyn comes in and she's dressed as the Wicked Witch or whatever, and then eventually, and it turns out that they kind of imply that Evelyn is a witch too, and it scares that woman off. But the whole episode is worth watching just because of the whole Wizard of Oz reference at the end. And then she had brought costumes for Charlie and Alan and Jake to wear, and of course they were the flying monkeys. And then, you know, as she's like walking out the door, she's like, you know, cackling like the Wicked Witch. Like, it was a really good way to end the episode. That's not really good otherwise. But I did want to mention that episode in this 2.5 Men. I do have 2.5 Men on DVD. And then 50 First Dates, I do love this movie. I'm only mentioning this because the cover of Over the Rainbow is featured in this movie too. The one that is featured in ER. And then the last thing is Roseanne. I just brought down the whole set because there are a couple references to the Wizard of Oz in Roseanne. There's a tornado episode in season 1, and I think it's called Toto, We're Not in Kansas Anymore. And so there's that one. And then there's an episode, the Trick or Treat episode, like the Halloween episode from the next season. And Dan gets all, you know, uncomfortable because DJ wants to be a witch for Halloween, and he has like the ruby slippers on, and wants to get a broom and, like, you know, dress up like the witch. And so there's that reference. And then there's also the one where DJ has that friend that, you know, sings to himself, and that Roseanne calls Elijah Minnelli or whatever. And so I remember him singing "We're Off to See the Wizard," and then Roseanne stops him by, you know, singing because, you know, from that part of the song. And that was a really funny moment too in Roseanne. But and those are just the ones off the top of my head when I was just like kind of randomly getting this stuff together for this video. I'm sure there are all kinds of other references and stuff. And when I start organizing my DVDs and stuff, I'll probably remember, oh, I should have put that movie in, or I should have put that TV show episode in. But anyway, so that's gonna be the end of this the physical media with EG part. And so stay tuned next for Crafting with EG. Hello, I'm EG, and in this episode of Crafting with EG, I'm going to be showing some of the Wizard of Oz themed crafts that I've done over the years. And I'm also going to use this opportunity to show a little bit of my mom's cross-stitching. I know I've said in previous videos I wanted to make a video about my mom's cross-stitching, and I'll show all that in the future, but I thought there are some Wizard of Oz themed cross-stitching things that she did, but I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to show a couple of them, and then I'll show the rest of them in the future. I'll go ahead and start with that. She used to cross stitch all the time when her eyes were better. I've since gotten her a light with a magnifying glass on in case she ever wants to pick her cross stitching back up, because there are a couple of things that she hasn't finished yet, and one of them is this, and she feels bad that she hasn't finished this, but it just got harder and harder for her to do cross stitching because of her getting older and like her eyes and stuff. And so I've since gotten her one of those really nice magnifying glass things, and so she has the intention of finishing this one day. And she didn't have the pattern book for this anymore, and so I found the pattern book for her on eBay in case she wants to finish this. But the first, she made 2 things out of this, and so one of the things is I'll block her little label because it has her name on it. But she made this. It's the Wicked Witch. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, I cannot believe it's always fascinated me how incredible it is to cross stitch. I mean, I've talked about what a pain in the ass it was to make this really cool logo tapestry thing, and like the Wizard of Oz bookmark thing. It wasn't as complicated as that was, but I can't imagine doing this on like this tiny little scale. I mean, it's basically like the same thing, except instead of having to go like in a row, like back and forth, and like, you know, changing colors every single time, you can just kind of go along and then you know, do a color, and then when you're done with that color, then you can just like go into the next color and all that kind of stuff. You just have to, you know, count all the little squares. Like, and no wonder it became so hard for her to do this. I can't imagine, like, you know, counting all these little squares and like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know, but I don't know how she did it. But this is one of the patterns from that book, and it's the Wicked Witch. I mean, it is just absolutely incredible. I cannot believe how the cross stitching looks like that. I mean, I should know how nice it can look because of me being a graphic designer, and how I know what a picture looks like when you zoom in and all the little pixels and stuff. But just the amount of work that goes into this and the amount of detail. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. This is the book. There's an address here from wherever this came from. I'll block that. But this is the pattern book that I bought on eBay. And so the pattern for this, like this is what it looks like. I mean, I guess I shouldn't show it because I don't own the pattern. But you know what I'm saying? It's like this. Like if you know anything about it, I'm a cross-stitching pattern. Like all these little squares and stuff, and you have to like look at them and think, okay, this one has a circle in it. So a circle is this color. And so then you have to like count how many circles are like across there. And like, I mean, what an amazing talent to be able to, you know, take that grid and then turn it into this. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And these are the other things that are in that book. So there's the Wicked Witch, and then this is them going up to the Emerald City, and then this one says lions and tigers and bears oh my, and there's no place like home, and then somewhere over the rainbow, the lyrics, and then this one right here, which is what my mom started, and she's almost finished. It has, you know, the 4 characters on it, and so she just hasn't finished it. She has a little bit left to do with the lion, but otherwise she's finished this. But I just cannot believe how cool that is. I mean, it really does look like them and everything. All it is like embroidery floss. See, this is the reason why when I get embroidery floss or talk about it in my videos and stuff, when I'm talking about my crochet, or like when I make the tassels for the bookmarks and stuff, why I keep saying cross-stitching thread, because that's what it is in my head. That's what it's always been since I was a kid, because my mom's beautiful cross-stitching. So when I see it in the store, it just doesn't register for me that this is called embroidery floss. It's always been cross-stitching thread to me, just because of, you know, watching my mom, you know, make these gorgeous things for so many years. It's just absolutely amazing how she did this. I mean, see, our whole family is artistic and loves all kinds of handmade crafts, and of course my mom crochets, and my grandma did all kinds of handicrafts, and I'm thinking of Iola handicrafts. That's a Mama's Family reference if you don't know. But I just wanted to feature this in this video, and I will show her the other cross-stitching that she did. Like I said, my mom loves Snow White, and one of the things that my grandma used to do was she used to take 3-ring binders, like those photo binders, and then she used to take fabric and paint and all kinds of, like, you know, the puff paint and glitter and all kinds of stuff, and actually make the cover of the 3-ring binders and stuff. So it looked like it was made out of a cloth, and it was kind of puffed out, and like these gorgeous albums. And so my mom had cross-stitched this Snow White scene with Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I mean, it turned out so perfect. I mean, it was. So my grandma took that, and then she put it on an album for my mom. And so my mom has her cross-stitching on an album that her mom made for her. And as much as I love these Wizard of Oz things, like that's one of the most beautiful things that she's ever done. I mean, that Snow White scene is so beautiful. And I'll definitely show that and all the other things that she cross-stitched and crocheted too in a future video sometime. But I just wanted to show these in this video just because it's all about, you know, the Wizard of Oz today. And then the things that I've made that are Wizard of Oz related. Like I said in one of the other episodes in this lineup, my mom and I had this Wizard of Oz themed party for my niece. And so she came over one day, and I wanted to like decorate, because she loves the Wizard of Oz as much as we do. And so I wanted to throw this, like, you know, Wizard of Oz themed party or whatever. So I thought it'd be fun if she came over and we would, like, you know, put the movie in and like pop some popcorn, and then sit around in our ruby slippers, and then, you know, watching the movie or whatever. And I thought it would be really cool to like decorate. And so what I did was in the living room, and these decorations were up for literally months, because she didn't want us to take them down because she loved it so much. And so our house used to look even more ridiculous than it does now. But I have video. I've since taken the decorations down. Or no, they've been shrunken down, and they're in a fairy house. I'll tell that story in the future. There's a fairy house in it. They're still hanging up. It's just that the fairies shrunk them down and put them in their fairy house. But it's this whole thing. But when my niece was growing up and she came over here and I'd watch her all the time, she'd color all kinds of pictures and stuff, and we wanted to encourage her love of art. So anytime she would make anything, even if it was just like a little scribble on a piece of paper, we would hang it up on the walls. And so like it was literally like wallpaper in our living room, because we like hung up every single one of her pictures that she ever did. And so like our house already looked like, you know, all decorated with all of her artwork. And so, like, you know, hanging some stuff off of the ceiling wasn't like a totally crazy thing for us to think of. but I wanted to decorate for the Wizard of Oz party. And there was one year for Halloween, I had made some Halloween decorations, and I hung them off the ceiling, and they were up for a long time too. And so I was thinking about that, and like all the Halloween decorations, how I did that. And I just made these little things out of construction paper. I thought like maybe I can make some things that were kind of Wizard of Oz themed and hang those off the ceiling. I used a piece of yarn to hang them off the ceiling, funnily enough. But I made all kinds of things. I made like Dorothy's dress and Ruby's slippers, and I made the lion's tail and the witch's broom and Glinda's wand, and I made all kinds of things. And as I'm talking, I'll put like a shot of like our living room and like all the things hanging up in there. I won't describe every single thing, but you can kind of see all the things. I made the Tin Man's hat, I made an apple, and I made a balloon like the one that, you know, the wizard flies off in at the end. I even made a little thing to hang off the bottom so that it looked like the little basket on the balloon. And what was funny is my niece would put her little squishies in it, because we used to give her these tiny little squishies every time she'd come over here. Like these little teeny tiny ones. And she, like, you know, put a little squishy in the little balloon. Oh, what was funny too is she was talking to a certain character I'm going to, you know, sort of allude to here in a minute. But she was talking to a character, and she was describing all of the decorations, and she said the bubble, and the ruby slippers, and the blimp. Like, she called the balloon a blimp. I thought it was like the funniest thing. That you would look at like the balloon and think of it as a blimp. But it was just a really fun Wizard of Oz theme party. But like the main thing that I did, and it's ridiculous that this stayed up all that time too, but I made a giant tornado. I just had like that brown packing paper that you can like get in rolls and stuff, and I made like this giant tornado. I just kind of like wrapped it to look like the shape of a tornado, like literally from ceiling to floor. And then I used a black marker and like made these swirls on it and stuff. And it was literally in our living room for months and months. And I've talked a little bit about the magic that's in this house. I'll talk about it in the future. It's a whole big thing. But the tornado that was in there all that time is just one of the things that you know gained a magical ability. Because, you know, for some reason while I was in there watching my niece a few times, things in my hand like my pen or whatever would just like fly out of my hand towards the tornado, like as if there was a vortex, a magical vortex in there. I have so many stories I want to tell. God, just so many fun stories in it. But I'll talk about all that in the future because it's a whole big project. But anyway, so we had that fun party or whatever, and we actually watched Return to Oz because she loves Return to Oz as much as the Wizard of Oz too. And so she wanted to watch Return to Oz, and so we had this like Wizard of Oz party, and we had that stuff hanging up for all that time. And you know, to this day, it's still hanging up in there. It's just, you know, not hanging up, you know, from our ceiling. They're hanging from the ceiling in the fairy house. And one crafty thing that I haven't done yet is this fabric that I have here hanging over my yarn wall. I thought it would be nice to use this and then some of that Yellow Brick Road Runner to make a display sometime to go with my Wizard of Oz collectibles, to put all of my ruby slippers and stuff on so that they're nice and displayed with all of my Wizard of Oz stuff. And I'll probably use some of this too, this kind of stretchy red sequin stuff that I got from Hobby Lobby. And I do have some ribbon that is the blue gingham. I'll probably decorate it really nice and create a nice display, but that's gonna be like a crafty thing that I do in the future. But I have all of this stuff for that. I just haven't done it yet. But I've been so obsessed with all the yarn and the crochet and organizing my yarn and crocheting things and doing videos for the YouTube channel. I've just sort of put some of that stuff off to the side. But, you know, now that I'm going to be talking about more things in my videos and stuff, I'll finally get to that. And once that's done, I'll get to show you that in a video sometime too. Oh, and another thing, there is a character in our life that whose name is inspired by Bellina from Return to Oz, and there's a funny story of why her name is inspired by Bellina. But I'll tell all that in the future too. But but the only other thing here that I'll show, and I'm just going to allude to this. And I'm only gonna like show this and show like a quick glimpse of something, but I'm not gonna describe what this is because you'll meet him in the future. But I made these ruby slippers for a certain character in our life. He's just one of many. He has many friends too. A certain character in our life, if you know what I'm saying. And so I made these ruby slippers for him, and I'll show you like a quick glimpse of a video that I made for my niece of that certain character. One thing about that character is he has a very loud and very high-pitched singing voice. He loves to sing, which is weird because, you know, somebody doesn't have a very good singing voice as his normal self. But apparently somebody can sing really high and really loud. And so he and I made a video together, and he was singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. and we used the yellow brick road runner as the backdrop for that video, and it's a whole story, and I'll tell the whole thing in the future and stuff. I would show a clip of that, but I hate to get like a copyright strike over a ridiculous video like that, you know, singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But just trust me, you think that I'm ridiculous just from like all of my videos and all the things that I've crocheted and all this stuff. Just you wait. When you meet him in the future and all of his friends, you will think, wow, all of that stuff that I thought was ridiculous that he's done, all of the creative stuff that he's done, that was nothing compared to like some of the stuff that I can tell you, all of the magical stories, all of the puppety kind of stories. Wizard of Oz hats like this are like the tip of the iceberg. An iceberg where this character, that's really funny that I said iceberg, because it's a perfect metaphor. An iceberg where a certain character probably lives, but whatever. I'll talk about him in the future. But anyway, so that's going to be the end of Crafting with EG. So stay tuned for the final show of this lineup called Storytelling with EG. Hello, I'm EG, and in this episode of Storytelling with EG, I'm going to be telling a couple stories, just like random stories from my life that have to do with the Wizard of Oz. And because like thinking about the Wizard of Oz, it's weird how much it has impacted my life. Just me being obsessed with the Wizard of Oz since like literally since I was a kid. And so I started to tell a couple like random stories. And it's very weird that it's like, you know, starting to rain and we have like a storm right now. We don't have like a tornado warning, but it's weird that it's like starting to rain and thunder and stuff. Because I'm making these videos about, you know, the Wizard of Oz and thinking about tornadoes and stuff. And then, you know, there it is, you know, starting to rain real hard. Speaking of that, like one of the things, like one of the stories that I was going to tell is like since we were kids, like every time we would get like a windstorm of any kind, it would be like this running joke with us that we would like, you know, go out on our back porch, and God knows what the neighbors thought of us. It was like, you know, before we moved over here and like grew up a little bit, but like when we were little, we would go out on the front porch or the back porch or like whatever, and like it'd be like windy and stuff out there, and we'd be screaming Dorothy like really loud, and God knows what our neighbors thought of us, but like, you know, that's how much it has been a part of our life that, you know, we think, oh, there's wind out, let's, you know, go out there and like scream for Dorothy or whatever, because it's just like this movie that is not only ingrained in our culture, it's like ingrained in our lives, and in my life too, like literally from the beginning. And that's why I wanted to I know that I didn't really explain, because this is like the very first lineup of my channel since I rebranded it. I didn't really spend this first lineup like, you know, explaining all of this and like what my channel is going to be from here on out, and like explain the structure of the episodes and the lineups and all that kind of stuff. So I was thinking like what I wanted to do was I wanted to devote an entire lineup of episodes of the little mini shows of my channel to the Wizard of Oz, because of what a big impact it's made on my life or whatever. And so I thought, instead of like taking my first video since my rebrand and like, you know, devoting so much time to explaining like what the channel is going to be and what this structure is and like the whole remote thing, and, you know, like actually take time to explain it, I thought like what I need to do, because I had this idea like, you know, make all of the episodes about the Wizard of Oz. I thought what I need to do is just like do it and like, you know, give you an example. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this is what the channel is going to be. And not every single lineup is going to be themed around the same thing. But I wanted to do it for this this first lineup. And so like every single one of the episodes of the little mini TV shows are themed around the Wizard of Oz. Going forward, it's not going to be that. The crochet is going to be, you know, just like, you know, stuff I crochet. And then if I talk about collecting, it's going to be like stuff that I found out, you know, some of my collectibles, or like maybe I'm going to be organizing some of my collectibles, and it's not going to be like connected to the crochet. And then like and it's not going to be the same shows every single lineup. It's just going to be like this kind of random thing. Every time you come here, you're going to know that it's always going to start with the Crocheting with EG, and then there's going to be a couple other shows and like episodes of little mini shows, and they're going to have something creative or have something to do with my interests or whatever, but they're not all going to be connected. And there could be some times where it's connected, but like I wanted this first one to, you know, kind of show like my my creative interest, and because like the Wizard of Oz is one of the things where I get to talk about it in a way of not just like, oh, I crocheted some Wizard of Oz stuff. It's like I can talk about it in a physical media kind of way, because I love physical media. I can talk about it in sort of a writing way, like I'm going to do here in a minute, or like, you know, talk about it in the collectibles, you know, how I love collectibles. and I have all these collections and stuff, and like in a crafting artistic aspect because of like the crafty things that I made of the Wizard of Oz, and I got to show some of my mom's cross stitching, and I just thought this would be the kind of perfect thing to use to show like how many creative interests that I have, and but it's all themed around the same thing. But thinking about this video, I just couldn't believe how much the Wizard of Oz has impacted my life. Because like if I really sit down and think about it, I feel like the Wizard of Oz was probably the very first thing that I was like a fan of. Not like, oh, I like that movie, or I want to watch, you know, Cinderella, or I want to watch this. Like I used to, you know, watch Disney movies over and over again, and I liked all kinds of things when I was growing up. But like the Wizard of Oz felt like it was the very first thing that I was like a real fan of, like literally from my childhood. And like I have this audio clip, and I'll have to insert it in here. There's going to be like insert shots, and there's going to be insert clips or like whatever. My dad was in the Navy, and my mom would send him cassette tapes, and you know, like talking into the thing. And some of the times you could hear me talking or my sister talking or like whatever. And she'd send him cassette tapes, and he would send her some back and all that. And there was one Christmas where I digitized them for my mom. And I was like going through them, and you can hear me in the background like playing and stuff. Like the fact that those audio recordings still exist, it's just like, it's incredible. I mean, it's amazing that those still exist. But there's this one audio clip where you can hear me playing in the background. And my mom is telling my dad that what I did was I went into the kitchen, and I got a bunch of her like Tupperware lids or like whatever. I mean, I like put them all over the floor, and I was like walking on them, like in the scene in Return to Oz where, you know, she's walking on the rocks and you know, not wanting to touch the sand because it's a deadly desert. And then you can hear me in the background going, the deadly desert. And like that's how long it's been since I've loved the Wizard of Oz. I mean, since I was that young. I was like maybe 1, 2, 3 years old or whatever. I was like really young, and so I've loved the Wizard of Oz since then.
He's just having a good time. I thought you might like to hear his little voice playing. He has all of my plastic lids that goes to all my plastic bowls spread out here all over the living room floor. And I asked him what he was doing, and he said that that's the deadly desert, like in Return to Oz. So he has them all spread out, and that's the only place he can walk is on top of my plastic lids. I tell you, if that shows... Yeah, the deadly desert. He's got a heck of an imagination. He's going to be a brilliant man, just like you.
And when I was listening to those tapes and stuff, and hearing me like, you know, pretending in the background, and like pretending I was on like looking at Tupperware lids, or looking at, you know, all the lids and stuff, you know, that were in my mom's kitchen, and looking at them and thinking of them as rocks, and like I'm walking on them like the deadly desert. And then my mom says this really nice thing, like how creative I am. And when I was thinking about that, I was thinking like that is like the perfect example of like my creativity and my imagination, how vivid it was even back then when I was a little kid. I mean, I know that like kids are creative and stuff, and they come up with all kinds of stories and stuff, but like, you know, not all of them, you know, turn into like creative people in their life, and you know, come up with stories and write things and you know, create all kinds of, you know, artistic things and stuff. Like I was like listening to that thinking like, this is like, you know, part of the origin story of my creativity and my imagination and stuff. Like my love and obsession with the Wizard of Oz, and like, you know, looking at Tupperware lids and thinking of them as like rocks and stuff, and like pretending that I'm, you know, in Return to Oz or whatever. It was just so amazing to have that audio clip, and to realize that, you know, it's not just like, oh, I've been obsessed with the Ruby Slippers and the Wizard of Oz since I was a kid. It kind of laid the groundwork, or like, you know, laid the Tupperware lids of groundwork for who I became later on as a creative person. Like it's very representative of who I was and who I would become. Like, you know, use my imagination the way that I do, and become like a creative person. I just loved hearing that in those audio tapes between my mom and my dad. And speaking of that, there's this letter. But he would also send letters and stuff. Before they got like the tape recorders, they would send letters back and forth. And it was sometimes like, you know, I would, you know, draw little scribbles, or like my sister who was older, she would like draw things for my dad, and like, you know, he would send stuff to us too. He wouldn't just send stuff like a letter to my mom. He would like, you know, send little notes to us, and you know, she would read them to us or like whatever. And he sent a note one time, and he like drew Dorothy, and I guess he didn't have like a red pen because he kind of scribbled on it, and then he used the pen to write write the word red. And I just thought it was funny that because he knew even back then how much I loved the Wizard of Oz and Ruby Slippers and stuff. And so for him to draw a little depiction of Dorothy and scribble on her shoes with orange or whatever, for him to have enough thought to write the word red, to let him know that he was thinking of me and how he knew that I would love it if he drew Dorothy in her Ruby Slippers. I just thought that was the best thing. And then thinking about my life and how sometimes it feels like if you don't get to come out to people before they die, it almost feels like they died before they knew who you were as a complete person. And I sort of felt that way with my dad. And so finding that letter and knowing that he did that, he drew that picture of Dorothy and stuff. And then I was going through after my dad had died, my mom put together these scrapbooks with all this paperwork and pictures and all that kind of stuff. And I was looking in that one day, and what was in it was the thing that was in his wallet. Those little picture things you could put little pictures in that came in wallets when people still had wallets. And so I was looking through that, and the funny thing was the only picture of me that was still in there after all those years was a picture of me that he carried around with him until the day he died. The only picture of me that was still in that thing was a picture of me from my birthday party, and I must have been 2 or 3. In that picture, I'm really excited or whatever, because at that birthday party, what they gave me for my birthday was a pair of Ruby Slippers. And I've since shown this picture, or shown one of the pictures from that birthday party, because I talked about it in a previous video. I'll talk about it here again in a minute. But they gave me Ruby Slippers. They were literally, you could see how big those shoes were. They were just big oversized shoes. They were probably some of my mom's. But I got so excited. I looked like an idiot. I was so excited. And so they gave me those Ruby Slippers for my birthday. And tangent, I also got a Bert and Ernie doll, and there was a clown cake with rainbow colored balloons on it. So which makes it even more hilarious. But I love that my dad had a picture from that birthday party in his wallet, and it kind of fixed a little bit in my head that regret that I had, that I didn't really get to share who I was with him before he died. And seeing that he carried around that, he wasn't ashamed of that picture. He wasn't ashamed of me. He was still carrying around that picture in his wallet, and he he's on a submarine writing to his kid or whatever, and he's drawing a picture of Dorothy and scribbling on her shoes and writing red, because he knows his son at home is going to love seeing a little drawing of Dorothy with her Ruby Slippers and stuff. Just seeing all that stuff after he had died, it just kind of fixed a little bit of that stuff in my head, that you kind of, some of the regrets that you have in your life, or that you think, oh, I should have said this, I should have done this, or I should have told him this, or all that kind of stuff. I just felt like it kind of fixed all of that. Because now you kind of wonder, would he have accepted this? Would he have, still supported, all of the creative weird things that I've done? Or would he have been okay with me, collecting, Ruby Slippers and have all these, ridiculous Wizard of Oz stuff? But he was there at the birthday party. He and my mom gave me Ruby Slippers for my birthday, and he carried around that freaking picture in his wallet until the day he died. I don't know, I loved finding that picture, and then the little drawing too. But anyway, speaking of that picture, I've already told this story, and I've already shown the picture in a previous video, but if you haven't seen that, what it was they gave me the Ruby Slippers for my birthday, and there was like this, there was with my hands up like this, all excited, or grinning like an idiot. And so one Christmas, now that I had gotten Ruby Slippers, I thought it would be funny to give my mom a picture where I put it in a frame, and then I took the picture from that birthday party, and where I'm holding my Ruby Slippers. One of them, I'm holding them up like this, and I'm going like this with my bottom lip under my teeth, and then the other one, I'm just like this, grinning like an idiot. So I thought it would be funny to put those two pictures in a frame, and then next to it put pictures of me now in my Ruby Slippers that I have now, and kind of recreate those pictures. And so I'll put the shot in the video again, so you can see those ridiculous pictures. But I gave that to my mom for Christmas one year, and of course she loved it and everything. It's still on our mantle in there, so we get to look at how ridiculous I am all the time on our mantle in there. But that's just another one of the random stories. And then I know I've told a part of this story in one of the other episodes. I was talking about going to Washington, D.C., and what it was a school trip. I think it was in 7th grade, and it was in civics class, and we were going to take this school trip. We were going to go to Washington, D.C., and it was supposed to be this big moment where we learn about civics, and then we go to Washington, D.C., and we get to see all of that in person. We get to see the White House, we get to see the Capitol building, we get to see all of these big landmarks in Washington, D.C., the capital of our country, and all this. That's what it's supposed to be, and that's what you were supposed to get out of it. That's what I was supposed to get out of it, you know, for civics class. But the only thing I cared about the entire time, of course I enjoyed looking at, you know, the White House and the Capitol and stuff and all that. But the only thing I cared about was I wanted to see the ruby slippers. That's how ridiculous my obsession with the Wizard of Oz was. It's supposed to be like this really big moment in my life or whatever, where I get to, you know, go to the capital of the country and see all these big, like, see the building that the President of the United States is, and, like, you know, where Congress is, and all this stuff. I didn't care about any of that stuff. All I wanted to do was go to the Smithsonian and see the ruby slippers in person. And the story was, unfortunately, when I went to the Smithsonian, and yeah, I saw all those landmarks and all that kind of stuff, and it was, you know, cool seeing all that. But I just wanted to see those ruby slippers. And so we went to the Smithsonian, and we were walking around, and it turned out that I guess that the ruby slippers back then, they would take them on tours sometime. And I saw a clip years later where they showed it, where they actually got a plane seat for the ruby slippers, and they'd put them in this special, like, metal box, and they would, like, keep it in the plane seat with them and all that, and, like, on the tour, and they would, like, take them around the country or, like, whatever it was. And that was one of the times when they were on tour, and so I didn't get to see them, and so it was like this big disappointment. I got to go to Washington and got to be, you know, where the ruby slippers were, but they weren't there anymore because, you know, they were on tour, so I didn't get to see them in person. Although years later, there was that Kickstarter where they raised the money to restore the ruby slippers, and because they were, over the years, they had gotten really dirty, and just from being so old and stuff, and hearing about all of that and the whole restoration process, and how they turned out, and seeing them, the before and after shots, and like seeing discussions online. I've seen people say that, like, you know, before they restored them to how they look now, it was almost like a disappointment to see them in person, because, you know, we all vividly remember seeing them in, like, Technicolor on the screen, and, like, really vibrant and red and all that kind of stuff, and then, like, seeing them in person, the condition that they were in, after being this prop that, you know, is in a museum for so long, that nobody really thought would be valuable, and people would actually want to see in person, you know, decades and decades later. That a lot of people used to be disappointed when they would see them in person, because they weren't really gorgeous and beautiful and glittery and stuff. They were kind of a disappointment. And so it's probably a good thing that I didn't get to see them that day when I went to Washington, D.C., because I probably would have felt a little disappointed, because, you know, I'm obsessed with, like, glittery things and sparkly things. Like, no wonder I'm so obsessed with, like, you know, metallic yarns, and how they're some of my most favorite yarns that I love, and why I have, like, you know, a jewel collection. You know, I collect those little glass jewels. I've just been obsessed with the ruby slippers, probably more than the movie itself. I just love those ruby slippers. And so knowing how much I was so obsessed with the ruby slippers, I know that I probably would have been really disappointed seeing them in the condition that they were in, you know, years and years ago, before they restored them and stuff. And seeing them now, I haven't seen them in person still, but I've seen videos, after they restored them and stuff, and they did a really good job. They look so gorgeous. I really want to see them in person now, knowing how they look now. But just, like, reflecting on that whole trip to Washington, I just think, like, how ridiculous I was. Like, it's supposed to be this really big moment, and I got to be in the capital of our country, and, like, all I was worried about was, like, I wanted to see the ruby slippers. I did, when I went around the Smithsonian, I did see Fonzie's jacket, and Archie, the bunker chairs, you know, Archie's chair and Edith's chair, and I remember there was a section with, like, these big jewels and, like, you know, garnets and diamonds and all kinds of stuff, and the Hope Diamond, and, like, I love that part. I remember that vividly, of course, because I love, like, all sparkly, glittery, jewel-like things. And I'm sure there were some other things from famous TV shows and movies and stuff that I saw, but I can't remember. You know, I'm just telling myself that, like, I was so down and depressed the entire time that I barely looked at anything, because I was just like, I don't get to see the ruby slippers. No, but what I did do, because I didn't get to see them in person, I did go into the gift shop. That's where I got this postcard, and that's where I got that thing that I described in my Collecting with EG video, where I was talking about, they had, like, this wooden plaque thing with, like, a picture on it, and I feel like I have to have that somewhere. I wouldn't have gotten rid of that unless something happened to it, but I can't remember. And then I got the soundtrack on CD. I did get that, but that's with my CDs. I didn't show that in my Collecting with EG video. But I did go to Washington. I didn't get to see the slippers. But I just love how the Wizard of Oz has made such a big impact on my life, and starting to make an impact on my niece's life too. Because, like, you know, she's grown up with it, and when I would watch her all the time and babysit her and stuff before she was in school, I'd pop in the Wizard of Oz, and she knows all the songs, and she loves Return to Oz too, and got her all of her little ruby slippers, and she loved, you know, skipping down the yellow brick road, and And then I crochet her ruby slippers, and I love that I'm passing on love of creativity and crochet and stuff to her, but I also love that I'm passing on the love of things like the Wizard of Oz to her and things like that, because it's made such a big impact on my life, and I love that, you know, she loves the Wizard of Oz too. And like there was one day I vividly remember her being like this little kid and just like laying there under her blanket and like watching the Wizard of Oz, and getting to that scene where Dorothy's crying or whatever, and she's like trapped in the witch's castle, and she's like, you know, crying, you know, like wanting her Annie M and all that kind of stuff. And I remember my niece like starting to cry a little bit, and then she like sort of felt really uncomfortable, and she said, I'm not crying, I just have a little water in my eyes. But she loved it so much, and she was like right there with Dorothy, and she was like so invested in that scene that it actually made her start to cry. I love that she's going to grow up and she's going to remember the Wizard of Oz and probably pass it on to her kids, and my love of the Wizard of Oz is going to be part of the reason why she's going to grow up loving the Wizard of Oz, and how it's like the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure that's true for a lot of people, that it's just like this generational thing. You know, you watch these movies that you grow up with in your childhood. Yeah, there are movies that like, you know, you watch that your parents don't really watch, but there are movies that like, you know, stand the test of time and get passed down from generation to generation, like these memories and stuff. And so like something that was important to your parents becomes important to you, and then you can pass it on to other people, and it can be important to your own children or your niece and nephew or like whoever. I love that like the Wizard of Oz is one of those things that like, you know, it stands the test of time, and like multiple generations of families love the Wizard of Oz. And like you can be sitting there like my mom and niece and I in there, you know, watching the Wizard of Oz on the couch together, like, you know, 3 generations of people like loving the same thing and watching the Wizard of Oz, and it being like this really heartwarming, comforting movie for all of us to share together. And that's how it sort of feels, and that's why I wanted to, you know, share all of this with you all. It just feels like the love of the Wizard of Oz is something that like a lot of people can share, and I feel like I wanted to like share that with you all. I wanted to share just how important the Wizard of Oz is to me and why I love it so much. It's just been a big part of my life, and I'm sure it's been a big part of your life too. And sitting down and thinking about it, I just didn't realize just how impactful it was to my life and my creativity and imagination and stuff. But it really has been. It's just one of my favorite things that I'm a fan of, and I'm a fan of a lot of things, and I collect a lot of things, but this is just like one of the most important and one of my favorite things that I love so much. And just to think of like how it's impacted my life, I just wanted to share that with you and devote this first lineup of all of my TV show episodes or whatever to something that I love so much in so many different ways. And hopefully you enjoyed watching all of these little mini TV show episodes or whatever in my first lineup in my new rebranded channel and all that. But anyway, that's going to be the end of this video, and I'll do a little outro for the whole like lineup or whatever. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed all the other videos too. That's going to be the end of Storytelling with E.G. Thank you so much for watching my first lineup and this special Wizard of Oz themed lineup of my new rebranded channel, the Just EG channel. Remember, I post new videos every first and third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and every video is going to be a new lineup. Every lineup is going to start with Crocheting with EG, and it may have like, you know, Collecting with EG or Physical Media with EG or like whatever, but they're not all going to be connected to each other, and so you can just kind of skip around to whatever episodes that you want to watch in the lineup or whatever. But I just wanted to do a special Wizard of Oz themed lineup to, you know, start the whole rebrand of my channel and stuff. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed all these videos, and I hope you enjoyed the rebrand of my channel, and let me know what you think about it in the comments below. So if you want to get a notification every time I post a new lineup, make sure you like and subscribe, and then I have a blog at crochetingwitheg.com if you want to follow the behind the scenes kind of stuff of the rebrand of my channel. You can go there too. Anyway, thank you for watching the Just EG channel, and I'll see you next time.
How does the Wizard of Oz song go? Somewhere. How does that go? I say somewhere over the rainbow. What else? How's it go? A rainbow, way up high. Is that how it goes? Okay, sing it for me. I don't know it. Does it go somewhere? Rainbow? Does it go like that? No. How does it go then?